Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of It's Always Sunny in South Philadelphia, episode number 12 in season number 2. I'm your host, Riley Rich, and today it's another very special episode, a very rare double upload week on the podcast, and that is because the MLB draft is approaching. So, of course, we got to talk about some top prospects that the Phillies should consider drafting. Again, I say should because they probably won't. Now, it took me a while. I was going to try to cram this into the last episode, and then I thought, as soon as I had my list, so this is a list of 6 guys. I got 3 guys for the first round, and I got 3 guys for the third round. The Phillies don't have a second round pick because they signed Castellanos. Thanks, Nick. You just got rid of a huge prospect for us, but it's all right. As long as you keep hitting, you'll be fine. But I made the list, and I went down, and I'm like, all right, the Phillies could draft this guy, the Phillies could draft this guy, the Phillies could draft this guy, and yeah. So that's what led to this. This is basically just explaining the options for the Phillies, and that's where we're going with this. Just make sure to follow and subscribe to wherever you listen. And without further ado, as I remember very clearly saying in the last one, I need to change my transitions. Let's begin. So, first, just to clarify, just an overall MLB draft thing, the Phillies have $6.3 million in the bonus pool. That is the 4th lowest in Major League Baseball. Yeah, great number to have if you're a large market. Good job, boys. So, what we're basically trying to claim is that the Phillies aren't going to have enough money to sign a college kid in the first round. It's just not happening. So what we're going to do is we're going to draft a high school in the first round and then save up and get a big-name college kid in the third round. So, let's meet the prospects, starting with the first round of the draft. The Phillies hold pick number 17, and I think, again, this is the high schooler round. We're going to look at high schoolers. So first, let's meet the first guy on our list. Coming in from American Heritage High School in Plantation, Florida, it's none other than left-handed pitcher Brandon Barrera. And now the way that we're going to look at these players is by using the 2080 scale. What the 2080 scale is the way that baseball scouts analyze baseball players, no matter where they are, and tries to compare them and separate them. So, for pitchers, it's pretty easy. We take all of their pitches, put them on 2080 scale. We get their control rating and their overall. And then for hitters, it's the 5 tools. So hit, power, run, arm, and field, and then their overall rating. And also I should add that they make these numbers in increments of 5. So the first place you're probably going to see some numbers is like 30, then 35, 40, 45, and etc. So now let's move on and actually get to our first guy. Again, our friend from American Heritage High School. It's left-hander Brandon Barrera. Now, Barrera comes in with a fastball, a slider, and a changeup. All of those are rated 55. His control rating is a 55, and his overall rating is, you guessed it, 55. His fastball is low 90s. We're talking 92 to 93 with hints of 96. Slider reaches low 80s. That's his strikeout pitch. The pitch he's turning to with 2 strikes. He also has excellent arm speed on his changeup, his low 80s changeup. He can mix that in there too if he needs to get ahead of some guys and mix up the speeds, as that's what a changeup does. Well done, buddy. It's very interesting to note that I'd say that Barrera is one of the smarter players in the game. The thing that you'll see about most pitchers in the draft is right here. Tommy John. Like, literally every single person. Peyton Paulette from Arkansas. Connor Prewitt from Alabama. And then I would also say Dylan Lesko, high school kid out of Georgia, also had a Tommy John injury. And I think right around the time that Lesko got injured, Barrera decided to shut himself down. This was like this April, like mid-April. So he shut himself down out of precaution so that he's fully healthy for this year's draft. One of the best decisions you can make. You're probably going to see this in the future. I would say his cons. The cons are that he's like 6'1". He's like 190. That's typically a small build for a high school pitcher. And I'm sorry to say, I know that I'm short. I'm not in the draft, so I can actually say these things. That's typically short for a high school pitcher. So that was kind of concerning to some scouts. And then potential stamina issues as well is also something that plagues Barrera. The idea that his floor is not anywhere in the starting position is that he could be a long reliever. Now, a very good long reliever still make the major league team, but still, that's not really good considering a first rounder. But then, so that is our friend Brandon Barrera. So he's a lefty out of American Heritage. He is a lefty out of Florida. Let's move on to another lefty out of Florida. This is going to sound very familiar. He's from IMG Academy, and you guessed it, that is the same school as Andrew Painter. And we're going to talk about left-handed pitcher Jackson Ferris. Now, Ferris has a fastball grade of a 60, a curveball grading of a 55, changeup grade of a 55, control grade of a 60, and overall grade of a 55. His fastball, 93-95, just a bit faster than what Barrera is offering. He does get up to 97, and the thing about his fastball, it has tons of ride. You're not going to see a ton of cut on it, but it does have a ton of ride. His curveball, mid to upper 70s. It's almost a pure 12-6 curve, which, if you don't know what it is, here's a clock, 12-6. So when you throw the curve, it starts up here, and then it's basically all vertical movement. No horizontal movement found whatsoever. So that's the 12-6 curve that he offers. And then his changeup is mid-80s. It has good fade, good sink. He has a really nice, a lot of options, good repertoire. His con is that he has a very unique release point. You should see it right over here, is that he kind of throws it. Like, I'm a righty, so, I guess it kind of makes sense. The picture, he's kind of releasing the ball, like, out here-ish. Out here, maybe past where my arm is. You might not be able to see my hand, but, like, somewhere out here as he's throwing it toward the plate. That, scouts say, that leads to control issues. I honestly am not worried about it at all. I, in fact, encourage the unique release point because that's what made the Rays advance to the World Series a few years ago. And I also think that control is something that can be fixed. It's something that Ferris will work with pitching coaches over time, and I see a very high ceiling on this kid. Player comparison is Robbie Ray. So basically, to put that into other terms, very high ceiling and very, very, below the screen. Very low floor. He could be an ace of a staff. He could also flame out and be a 5-starter. But I would say I'm on the Ferris fan train. I think that he can make it to the number 1 spot. Don't you just love seeing the headlines now? 2 IMG kids. Headline, Phillies rotation. Oh man, that would be something cool. That would be something interesting, I'll tell you that. And then finally, for our last first round prospect, we're going to actually look at a position player. I know, unbelievable. Riley's going with something different. It's a hometown kid. It's a kid from Pennsylvania, just north of Pittsburgh. A shortstop from North Allegheny High School. It's Cole Young. Now, Young's grades, he's got a 60 hit, 40 power, 55 arm, 55 speed, 50 fielding, and 55 overall. His strengths, he's got impressive bat-to-ball skills. He's got a pure left-handed swing. It really helps him make contact with the ball. He gets on base often, and when he's on base, he is an above-average runner. He's got an above-average glove. It's going to keep him at shortstop for a long time to come. And he's also not overwhelmed by a ton of velocity. He's able to keep it to himself. He doesn't let the moment get the best of him. He knows what he's doing, and he drives the ball. Well, actually, he hits the ball and he gets on base. The power is the main concern for Young. He doesn't really have enough power yet to hit the ball out of the ballpark. Rather, he is something that I would consider gap power, where he can hit it to medium deep left field, medium deep right field, and it's able to work. He's able to use his speed. He can turn into a double. He can turn into a triple, but he doesn't really have the strength to hit the ball out of the ballpark. So not really a 5-tool player, but still a very nice player. Player comp for Cole Young, I wholeheartedly agree with this one. It's Adam Frazier from the Mariners. Frazier's also got a pure left-handed swing. He doesn't have that much power. He's a utility player, mostly playing at second base. I wouldn't say that Cole Young is a utility player. I think a lot of scouts would agree, and he's going to stay at shortstop. But still a very nice comparison with the bat, or hitting-wise. He's got a ton of speed, a good arm. He is surely one of the best position prospects, especially one of the best high school prospects in the draft. Now, I've been looking at a ton of mock drafts. They have been saying that Barrera might be picked before. Actually, I'd say there's an 80% chance he falls between 10 and 12, and a 10% chance that he falls from 12 to 15 or 16, which leaves us a 10% chance to actually get him. But if he's taken, I really like Jackson Ferris. I like Ferris over Cole Young. That's just how I am. I'd rather have Jackson Ferris, the lefty from IMG. He's got that release point. It'll give hitters a different look. I really like the pick of Jackson Ferris. So you can put me down. I will be selecting with the 17th pick, Jackson Ferris, left-handed pitcher from IMG Academy. So we're going to move on. So we just did our first round. Competitive balance. Yep, we do not have a competitive balance pick because MLB thinks we're good, and we're really not. I think there's 2 competitive balance rounds. We move past second round, and then we get to the compensatory pick. We do not have a compensatory pick because we didn't have any free agents leave us. Actually, we had all of the free agents come to us. But basically, like the Astros who let go Correa and the Blue Jays let go Simeon and everyone else, those are the guys who get the compensatory picks. So then we go to the third round. The Phillies hold the 93rd overall pick in the draft, which falls in the third round. That's our third round pick. Should have been more clear. And like we said, so we're going high school in the first round, and now is when we see the big college kid get drafted for the Phillies. This is the big player that will probably define the draft, make or break. If he makes the big leagues and he's a star, it's a good draft all around. If he flops, terrible, everybody gets fired. And by that I mean they'd probably fire me if I was the head of scouting. So, let's get right into it with our first college prospect. He comes from the University of Tennessee, who is number 1 overall. Do not get it twisted. I don't care about the College World Series. It's third baseman Trey Lipscomb. Now his 2080 grades, very consistent. 50 hit, 50 power, 45 speed, 45 run, 55 arm, 50 fielding, and a 45 overall. The big thing for him is his bat speed and his strength. Those two things combined carry the ball, especially because he's using a metal bat, carries it out of the ballpark. It leads to his hitting and power ratings leading the charge. And because of those things, he led the SEC in extra base hits with 44 and RBIs with 84. Now, the only concern about Trey Lipscomb is that 18 of his 22 home runs were hit at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. That's the home of the Tennessee Volunteers. And it is said to be a very hitter-friendly park. So, there are concerns about Lipscomb's ability to hit a home run at basically one of the more average parks or even a pitcher-friendly park. I'm not worried about it because I'm a Phillies fan and I'm used to Citizens Bank Park and the hitter-friendly dimensions of Citizens Bank Park. I think Lipscomb would be a great addition. He'd be a third baseman prospect. We haven't had one of those since Alec Boehm. His instincts and his footwork are also something that scouts have nitpicked about his fielding. Again, something that can be worked on over time. And he's an average base runner, which if he's hitting the ball to the gaps, I'm not really asking him to steal third. So, with that being said, Trey Lipscomb would be an amazing prospect, especially if he falls to the third round. Now, our next two prospects, or shall I say our last two prospects, because they're the only two we're talking about, come from the University of Texas and led UT to hosting a regional and basically blowing it after that. If you guys follow college baseball at all, you will be able to recognize these names instantly. Let's start with a pitcher from Texas. None other than the ace, left-handed pitcher, Pete Hansen. Now his 2080 grades, he's 2080 grades. He has a 40 fastball, a 55 curve, 60 slider, 50 changeup, 60 control, and a 45 overall. His slider, low to mid 80s. It's high 70s to low 80s. 78 to 82. It's got horizontal and vertical movement, a ton of movement. He's got a low 80s changeup that he worked with it. He's got with some fade, and he's got plus control on most of his pitches. And you're probably looking at me and saying, why haven't you mentioned his fastball? Well, that's really the main concern about Hansen, is that his fastball rarely tops 90. And the thing about Hansen is that movement is key. He's had a really good year at the University of Texas, being able to strike out a ton of guys. So personally, I'm fine with it. I like the weird for pitching, or not weird, unique. I really like unique. That's why I like Jackson Ferris's release point. I like Pete Hansen's movement, and I think it will carry its way over that slow fastball. I think that it won't matter if people are swinging and missing through all this stuff, and I think it would matter less if he's walking a ton less guys than everybody else. And movement is king. That's how it is. With Hansen, movement is king, and I love that. I gave him my own player comparison. I gave him the comparison of Kyle Hendricks, but a lefty. Kyle Hendricks is the ace of the Cubs, and I see that as a ceiling for Pete Hansen as well. I think that he could be a number 2 starter or a number 1 in the right setting. I think his floor is probably a number 5 starter. I don't see him going to the bullpen. But Pete Hansen as a starter that has a ton of potential, I love seeing that. But if we do pick Ferris, then I don't think we'll double up on lefties. But we'll see. There might be some good kids in the 4th round. If there are that fall, I would definitely take Pete Hansen. And finally, we get to one of my favorite players in the draft, because this is a giant question mark. People have been talking about Ben Joyce and his 105-mile-an-hour fastball, yet he's still only rated in the 3rd round. And people ask why. Well, because he's a reliever in college, and he has a ton of question marks otherwise. Ben Joyce is the pitcher easily regarded as the pitcher with the most question marks. I have found the hitter with the most question marks, that being first baseman Ivan Melendez, a.k.a. the Hispanic Titanic, your Golden Spikes Award winner. Yes, that's right, he did win College National Player of the Year. Let's get to his 2080 grades. He's got 50 hits, 60 power, 30 run, 50 arm, 40 field, and 45 overall. Again, power is going to carry him. He set a new BB Core record, which is basically the modern era for college baseball, from 2014 on, with 32 home runs that topped Chris Bryant's record. He has 387 average, a 1371 OPS. His contact is a plus as well. The bat is surely there for Ivan Melendez. The only problem with him is that he cannot run that much. He cannot steal bases. And he's either going to be a first baseman or a designated hitter. He cannot field anywhere else. A few notes. Number 1, I honestly don't care. I'm not going to put Ivan Melendez at 3rd. I'm not going to put Melendez in the outfield. He is a first baseman, and he is there to replace Rhys Hoskins. Yes, if I were to draft him, I would pick him as a backup for Rhys Hoskins. I think that we would either trade him in a blockbuster deal or we'd let him walk in free agency because he's going to hit arbitration and someone else will offer him more money. Yeah, second, if he's hitting home runs, then yay, because that's what the Phillies do now, so that's our identity, so he lives up to the Philly standard. And if he's also getting doubles, again, same thing as to what I said about Trey Lipscomb, is that I'm not going to have him run if he's on second base. I'm not stealing third. So it really doesn't matter if he's hitting the ball on extra bases. He's not stealing anyway. So if the bat is surely there, and if he can work on his contact, I think Ivan Melendez has a chance to be MVP caliber. His stuff could translate to the next level. So that being said, screw it. I'm picking Ivan Melendez, first baseman out at... Here's the thing. Melendez's fielding could drop to the fourth round. Could drop him to the fourth round. If he does, you take Hanson, you go on to Melendez, which would be the perfect draft. But I think that for the sake of realism, that's not going to happen. I'm going to take Ivan Melendez. And that is the first 3 rounds of the MLB draft. It's going to be a crazy ride for sure. I couldn't do a mock draft for this if I tried. I tell you that I would instantly fail, because then you'd have to bring in slot values and what teams want, what teams already have, like in the minor league system, and I just can't do that. I think I'm pretty smart, but I know I have my limits. That is my limit. That's for sure. But thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the MLB draft. It's on Sunday. Do not throw anything at your screen. I'm saying that more to clarify, I'm saying that more for myself than for you. But thank you guys for joining me again in regards to next week. Vlog on YouTube and an actual podcast, the original style podcast everywhere else. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to wherever you listen. Those should be popping around on the bottom or over here right about now. And just remember, even if the Phillies double dip, or even if the Phillies take a right-handed pitcher at a high school for the 3rd year in a row and annoy the heck out of me, even if the Phillies, somehow possibly skip over every single name on this list, and even if the Phillies make terrible mistakes and scouting really makes me want to do things, just remember, keep your head up, because it's always sunny in South Philadelphia. See you guys next week.